Oh, so certain. I thought I was, going to prove everybody wrong. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of my Monday vlogs. Somebody come up with a name for these because I don't have one. It's just a Monday vlog. But today I thought that I would talk about when I was first originally diagnosed and how that felt because, I think most people see me on this channel and they see my life and they see that I'm doing fine and they see that I've accepted this diagnosis and it really hasn't changed anything other than I take a pill a day and I go see the doctor every 3 months. I got my blood drawn every 3 months and we stay on top of all that. But other than that, really nothing has changed other than all this crazy HIV advocacy that I had no idea was going to be in my life. But really, truly, I know that for many people who are newly diagnosed, I'm a source of hope for them, and it helps them to see that this is how your life can be, that, life can go on and feel very normal. But what a lot of people don't see is that moment when I found out when I was diagnosed. It wasn't always like this. I didn't just take the diagnosis in stride and, life went on. There was definitely that first moment when I was diagnosed and the weeks preceding that were just absolute horrific kind of blur. And I don't talk about it a lot, but it was a really, really hard part of my life. And so I don't want to sugarcoat my diagnosis in any way. When I was trying to find out what was wrong with me, because I had been getting sick for weeks and weeks and didn't know what the issue was, there were so many things that we thought it could possibly be. They thought maybe lupus, they thought even cancer, they thought it could be meningitis or rheumatoid arthritis was another one. And so HIV wasn't on my radar at all. And like I said back in my first video, I thought that I had a parasite in me from the ocean. I was so certain. Oh, so certain. I thought I was, going to prove everybody wrong. And that was going to come up positive for a parasite. They'd just treat that sucker and I'd be fine. So, they tested me for HIV that day, that afternoon. That was part of all the blood work that I had done. He asked if he could add that in and I said, sure. But again, I didn't even give it another thought. That didn't even cross my mind at all. Didn't go home after that test was taken or the blood work was done and had HIV lingering in my brain at all. Like, it was like he asked if he could take it, if he could, do the test for it. And I said yes, and I didn't think about it again. I really didn't, because it didn't even, like I said, it didn't cross my mind. So when the call came in a few hours later, and this doctor, he wanted to get back to me right away. A lot of people can't believe that I got a phone call, and a lot of people think that I made that up. I truly did not make that up. He did call me, and I don't know that he gets positive HIV results very often for the work that he does. He was an internal medicine doctor. So, I don't know how often he gets a positive HIV result. It's not like he's working at a clinic where they're testing for HIV all the time. So he knew, and he knew we all were wanting to know what the heck was wrong with me. So in my eyes, he just called me back as soon as he got the positive result, because he wanted me to know before I went to bed that night, so that I didn't go to bed wondering what this was, because something was clearly wrong. My body wasn't functioning right. I was really sick. And I thought somebody was walking up right now in my driveway. So yeah, I don't fault him for calling me. He knew that I was waiting for some kind of news. He even said to me when I had my blood drawn, if you start feeling like you're getting confused or anything starts happening where you're not sure where you are or anything like that, go to the emergency right away. I mean, that's the kind of place we were in at that moment. It was really scary. He thought if it was meningitis, he didn't want that going any further than it could go. And so to go to the emergency right away, just in case it was that. Of course, we were testing for that also. So when he got the news of HIV, he definitely called right away. I could tell by his voice and the way that he talked to me that he was surprised and he didn't really know the right way to deliver the news. I was sitting there on the couch with Eric when he was sitting across the room from me. I was on the couch when I got the phone call, and hearing HIV, you just, again, when I wasn't thinking of that at all, it was this just this feeling of there's something in my body that's like, I don't know how long this has even been there. How long has this thing been inside me? My God, how did this happen? Where did this happen? How did this accident happen? Like, it all seemed unreal and like surreal, and just so dark to know that what was causing all of these symptoms was a virus that had invaded my body and had completely taken over, all very silently. Like, it's like, again, there's no one stopping you saying, we're going to put some HIV in you and you're going to feel the results years from now. And then you start, backtracking in your mind. My God, how long has this been in me? Lots of things go through your head. Of course, worried about, Eric. And of course, he thought maybe he gave it to me. He was like, who knows? That he had like a sore throat. It was strep that he'd had a year before, and he'd wondered if that was HIV. Of course, we've learned so much about HIV since then, and female transmission and how uncommon it is. But, in that moment, he was worried. I wasn't, though. I really didn't feel like I got it from him. In my mind, I always had this feeling that HIV came from, it was either something that was transmitted back and forth between gay men, or it was from heterosexual men who had bisexual affairs or had used drugs. And I still stand by that. I'm not off by that. That's what the statistics show also. And so I really didn't think that Eric had given it to me, and I wasn't really worried that I gave it to him, to tell you the truth. And he didn't have it, and he'd been exposed to me for a year. But anyways, back to the diagnosis. Yeah, it was a super dark place. I don't know how I went to bed that night. I was prescribed the next day something to help me sleep. I won't get into all of the mess ups with my medication, but a different doctor prescribed me a tripla, which he never should have done because we didn't have my viral load and CD4 back. So it was like he shouldn't have been prescribing an older medication for HIV when they weren't even aware of what my viral load was and my CD4. And at that point I had AIDS and they weren't aware of it. And I was just in the beginning stages of pneumonia. So big mess up on their part, that doctor's office, but that is not the doctor that I ended up with. That was not my HIV doctor. That was even a different doctor who had called me. It was an infectious disease doctor in his office who had sort of taken my case over. And what a mess all that was. But anyways, I remember walking into even his office and I'm so sick and I'm like, it's warm outside and I'm in shorts and I'm in a tank top and I'm feeling pretty, but I have HIV now. Like, I'm like, the identity that you go through, the identity crisis, it's like, I'm no longer this woman that I thought I was. I'm now this woman with this virus. I feel like everywhere I walk, people must know. And I felt dirty. I mean, that is the best word to describe it. I felt, I was sick from head to toe. So to know that HIV was creating that, it was a constant reminder that I was this dirty person, that I did something terrible, and that I had 3 children. And oh my God, how could I go on as a mother? And, there's no wholesomeness to any of this. It's incredibly stigmatizing. And that in your diagnosis, that's why people don't test. They don't want this because they don't want to deal with the stigma related to it. I mean, I had to wrap my brain around it right away. I accepted it almost immediately because the test was positive, but he said it could be a false positive. We wouldn't really know for sure until we did my viral load and CD4 count. But I felt like it was positive. I thought, what else could it be? Like, everything adds up to it. And I'd say within 30 minutes of my diagnosis, and I've said this before, I pretty much had narrowed down who I thought it came from, and it was a high-risk partner. And within 4 days I had reached him and his family, and I got my confirmation. And so I had accepted this, even that night. I really think I did. And even though Eric was hoping that it would be a false positive, as my family did too, but I just kept saying to everybody, I mean, really, what else could this be? It adds up, and it's all my symptoms point to it. And so I remember taking the Atripla the second day. So I was diagnosed on a Monday afternoon, and I was starting Atripla on Tuesday. And I remember just taking that medication and how sick it was making me feel. And Eric was so upset because he felt like, if you don't have HIV, you shouldn't be taking this drug that's so strong and making you even sicker right now. And I was taking it, and it was literally my way of like saying, I've accepted that I have this. And I knew he hadn't yet. And it's like I wanted to take the pill in private because I didn't want him to see that I believed that I had this. It's like I think there was a lot of doubt for the first few days, hoping that it would not turn out to be positive. But I, by myself, took that pill because I just wanted to see if it was going to make me better. I was, just needed help. I wanted to be better. And unfortunately, it kind of went the wrong way in the beginning because I didn't realize I was in the beginning stages of pneumonia. And so the atripla and then the pneumonia starting and all the HIV symptoms were ramped up. Just the combination of all of it was just really bad. And so like that was my first introduction to having HIV, was this, equating it with being incredibly sick. And how it all came to be, it's like this mystery of like, how did it get in your body? And then you realize that somebody had it and they knew they had it afterwards, and then they didn't tell you. And all the pieces came together, and it was like almost too much to take. It was so overwhelming in the first few days to try to wrap my brain around it. And was Eric going to stay with me? I mean, I couldn't even ask him. I just like couldn't even face that. I was just like, almost like I just didn't even want him to be around. I like didn't even want him to see me. I didn't want him to see how sick I was. It was embarrassing. It was like, wow, this is because of something that I did where I was irresponsible. And now you have to like see this girl that, you want to be with, but do you really want to be with her? I mean, what a mess, So I never asked him, actually. It wasn't until I went to Quebec. He never said he was leaving, but he needed to go home and sort his thoughts out, find out about the virus and, his risk. And, of course, we found out about U equals U, but that was way later on. And, we found out a lot about female transmission and how low the risk is. And even with a viral load. But then, of course, U equals U came out, and then it was like, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, it's absolutely not going to be transmitted, and that's for, men to men and anal sex, everything. It's like, it's just not going to happen. So that was obviously really great to hear that, but we didn't know about that until the end of the year. That was like 7 or 8 months down the road, or even 10 months later. So we were just going based on the fact that he didn't get it from me, and that my viral load was clearly so much lower. Like, how could it even be possible? But then we heard U equals U, and it was like, okay, cemented what we thought. And it was really great to have all that science to back up what we kind of were feeling and had experienced ourselves. So anyways, I guess I just wanted to make this video for people that are newly diagnosed. You're not crazy for feeling this horrible adjustment that you have to go through, and to wrap your brain around it. There's a total shock period, and that does fade away. And then you literally eventually stop thinking about it every second. You stop thinking like, oh my God, I'm a person with HIV. You really have to find a way to like embrace it and just be okay with it, and know that you're really lucky to get it in this day and age, and that there's medication available and your life's going to go on. And there's so many other things that you can get that are so much worse. This is considered a manageable chronic condition today. That's all they say. Manageable chronic condition. Chronic meaning that it's ongoing. Manageable meaning it's manageable. I mean, it's manageable. And I get a lot of shit for saying that it's not a big deal. But I will continue to say that for all the people that are newly diagnosed that think that they need to end their life, because that is not the solution, and there's no need to. But I don't want to in any way make people feel like I am making light of the fact that HIV isn't a big deal. Of course, nobody wants HIV. Of course, we should be protecting ourselves, and people that are having sex should be wearing condoms if they don't want other STIs, or if they don't want HIV. If you don't want HIV and you have a lot of sex with men and you don't like to wear condoms, you should be on PrEP, because then your chances of getting HIV are like less than 1%. So there's lots of different routes. People need to be educated about what's out there and just be safe. But I definitely want to give hope to those that have HIV, that feel so much shame. We're human. This is just a virus. It is just a virus. That's it. The flu is a virus. I mean, herpes is a virus. We're human. This is what happens. If we were animals, they wouldn't give a shit. Nobody would care. It's just because we're humans, so we have to put a label on everything. I find the whole thing ridiculous. So as I got better and I realized that this virus wasn't going to be what I thought it was, because I assumed I was going to have to be sick every day. It's part of the punishment, right? I have to be sick every day. When that didn't happen and I started to feel normal, I was like, what? I get to be normal? Oh my God. Because I thought this was going to be sick all the time. I'm either going to be sick from the medication or I'm going to be sick from just having HIV in my body. Well, it's dormant. I don't feel anything. And my pill gives me such a small side effect. It's most of the time it's not there, but every once in a while I'll feel like a little headache or a little queasiness about an hour after I take it. But that doesn't last long. It's like a few minutes, like literally, if that's the price I have to pay for having this, then so be it. I'm fine with that. And I don't care about taking a pill every day. I don't think that's a big deal at all. People take vitamins all the time. Like I said, there's a lot of conditions that are so much worse. And this is just not one of them today. So, you know, if the stigma would stop, people would test. If there wasn't the stigma associated with HIV, people would test and it would really reduce the number of new infections. So that's all I can do is try to like let people know what life is like with it and how manageable life can be without any interruptions. I go to work. I've got my 3 kids. I still have my boyfriend. I still surf. Well, not very often, but I still skate. And, you know, I eat whatever I want. I can still drink alcohol if I want. There's just no restrictions, you know? I mean, not that I want to have HIV, but I'm glad that I can have it and have this platform to help those that don't feel like they can speak up about it or who need the information. So, okay, that's it for this Monday. I'm going to stop babbling on about it, but I just wanted to let you guys know that when I was diagnosed, I thought it was the end of the world too. I really, really did. I really thought that I was never going to see the light of day again. And that just wasn't the case. And, you know, there's a lot of people that are diagnosed that don't ever have a symptom. And so they have that weird feeling of like, are they ever going to get sick? So that's kind of like scary, I'm sure. But, you know, if you stay on top of your meds, you're not. So just take your medication every day, every 24 hours. That's all we have to do. Take that medication, go see your doctor, stay in care, and get your blood drawn. Okay, guys, I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you for listening to me ramble on and on. And if there's anything you want me to talk about, please leave it down in the comments. I always read them. Okay, bye guys. Oh, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Okay, bye.